Okay, thanks for coming, guys. Welcome to our first Cafe Connect at Heritage. We're sitting with our top producers, and we're discussing, of course, the valuation process, and we're going to fire them some questions so that we can at least try and understand what actually goes on. So thank you, Rob and Gary, for your time. And these guys have got more time in real estate than me together, but and they've got completely different ways of doing it. So the main thing is I'm not trying to get prescriptive and tell you this is how you do a listing presentation. Like I keep saying to everybody, it's very important that your own personality shines through and that you use your own words. And if you say it's very lekker, then you must say it's very lekker. Because if you say it's a beautiful mansion, you're going to look silly in front and you won't be authentic. So it's very important to be authentic in front of your buyers and sellers and trying to get listings, because you're trying to buy their trust, and you can only do that if you're credible. Okay, so the first thing is, what is a listing? Well, a listing by its nature is defined in the Act or defined by the PPRA. It's a mandate to sell a property, and remember, without a mandate you may not operate. So firstly, without a mandate you won't earn commission. There's no commission. And if there's ever a commission dispute, they will just say, show us the mandate. Now, a mandate doesn't have to be a sole mandate, or it can be sole, open, anything, even verbal. But a sole mandate needs to be written and, of course, accompanied by a document with the defects on it and a marketing plan. So it steps up a little bit. And I always suggest you just get everything in writing, and you can do it retroactively. So you could say to the client, can I have a mandate to sell your house? And say, yeah, sure. That's a mandate. So what you do is you go home and say, hey, Kali, thanks for the mandate to sell your property. As discussed, we'll make it 2 million rand and my commission will be 5%. And then you email it to him, and that's very strong evidence to prove that you've got a mandate. Okay. The next thing is, what is a listing presentation? Now, this is where I see cowboy hats come out, because the listing presentations vary from a Mark Beckley listing presentation of 3 hours 47 minutes with appropriate sound backing and clapping to Rob's one, which is only very slightly less than that, to Gary's one, which is completely different. Okay, but a listing presentation is where you take the client, you sit them down, typically, you have a piece of paper, a clipboard, a presentation, and you go through it step by step with the purpose of getting a mandate. So the purpose isn't to sit there for an hour or 20 minutes or whatever time to have a nice day. Your goal is to come out with a written sole mandate at the right price to sell the property. Okay, Rob and Gary do not spend their time chatting to people about stuff. Their purpose is to get a mandate, and then they will chat about stuff. Okay, remember that. Okay, and the last thing is we want to determine value. Now, what is value? Now, if you've met me, you'll know how many values are there for a property? Who knows? Is there one?
5.
Selling price? 5, yeah. So there's a selling price, there's the price a buyer is prepared to pay, there's the municipal valuation, there's the CMA average, there's the bank's valuation, there's a SARS valuation, there's an insurance valuation, there's a rebuild valuation. But the bottom line is, what we're trying to do, I'm sure, is that we're all trying to get a valuation on paper as close to possible as what a reasonable buyer would be prepared to pay, be able to pay, and would be able to get a bank to backing to pay. Because there's no use saying, Rob, I'm going to buy your house at 10 million rand. Rob said, cool, you didn't. And I'll go to Absa and I say it's worth 1 million rand. It's absolutely futile. And we do that a lot. And remember, that's the problem when you overvalue. If you overvalue, then you're going to land up with a property that the bank won't pay for. Wasted your time. So, pretty sure you're tired of me. So the very first thing is, let's just start with Gary. Gary, what do you include in your presentation to your client? And why do you include that stuff?
Well, first of all, I'd like to state that I do some research prior to going to see the client. Research prior is very important, because I know in the back of my mind if it's in my formed area or out of my formed area, because I'm quite an open area kind of agent. Albeit I operate between where my kids go to school and where I stay in that channel. I know both areas quite well. I would establish in my own mind what I think the property is going to be worth. I go on Google View as well. I can look around the Google View to see the property before physically going to the property. It gives me an idea. It does 50% of the work. And then when I go and see the client, I take a nice red folder, always take my red folder, as Angie will tell you. It will have a Lightstone report on that property, must have, and then a suburb report, which gives me trends, patterns of actual sales. I think we need to distinguish between the two, is registered sales and wish list. Your wish list is what's on our portals. That's what everybody wants for the property. Do they get it? No. At the moment they're getting 90% of asking price because the market's in a little bit of a poor state. So Lightstone report specific to the property, suburb report, obviously mandates. I take an exclusive mandate with me, the eternal optimist, and I take an authority to list as well in case they say, Gary, well, I've got subbies on for another couple of weeks or a month, or I only like open mandates, or just want to do dual, then have the paperwork there. There's nothing worse than going there and you don't have the right paperwork, because you want to conclude the transaction there and then. Yes, we need FICA, that can be emailed thereafter. However, I do say to the clients that the FICA must be with us within 24 hours according to the FICA legislation, which is actually true.
Okay. Rob, what do you, what's
Over to you.
Well, I agree with everything that you said,
Thank you, Rob.
except you didn't come prepared. So I am prepared.
Whoa!
I have a red folder.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we approach it from the point of view that a seller's house is probably his most important asset in his life. Very few people are, not in the area I live, have 16 or 17 type of houses. So they have concerns. They probably haven't sold that house in 20, 30, 40 years. So they have a lot of concerns around what the process is, how they're going to fund their next transaction, and all that type of thing. So we do go there, and our aim is to spend basically 2 hours with the seller. And the way we do that, and working as a partnership does work very well, but I still did this before Robin joined me. But basically we'll go there, the guy will say, also having done all your research and everything, but the guy will say, do you want to have a walk around or whatever? So yeah, we'll do a walk around through the house, but I always want the seller to be there with me or with us, because he will point out little things, and then we'll say, oh, that's great, because now when we bring buyers through, we will point that out to the buyer. And we always use that language, is when we bring the photographer, when we bring our buyers through, when we list the property, that type of thing. We don't sort of say, if you come with us or whatever. So we just try and plant that seed with them there. And then, yeah, absolutely, as Gary says, so we will have a little Lightstone report, plus a little bit about property COSA, and all the property information for the seller. Only an exclusive mandate, because we're only going to get an exclusive mandate, nothing less. And then obviously a listing card, property condition report. So obviously they've got to fill that in when you fill in the mandate. The other thing which we do, a little bit of a brag, is we kind of say, that's the properties that we've sold in the last year. And that's like 30 properties, okay? And these are the properties that we've got on the market at the moment. So we don't know fully what the house is going to be like when you walk into it, but then we'll go, dum, 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 dum. Okay, here's a house that is very similar to, your house. And we'll walk through it and say, well, that's where we get our value from. Lightstone report, those are the things that are there. So we try and give them as much information about price. And we'll actually say to them, look, this is only our guidance. So we're not saying we're 100% right. We don't have crystal balls. We don't have crystal balls.
Right. So
So
moving on
it
swiftly.
is just that guidance figure that we give them.
I like those two brag clusters very much. Now, some of you may not have sold 30 houses in the last 2 weeks like Rob has. So you'll be wondering, how do I do that? Well, remember, Property COSA Heritage has sold a lot of houses. So what you could do in an area is go to Cheryl or look and say, what have we actually sold and what have we actually listed? And you could just change the wording slightly and say, these are the properties that we have sold and these are the properties we are currently listing. So you could steal Rob's idea, and I'm sure you won't mind, for a small fee. And then you could just say, it's not me, because you're a team, and this is what we keep saying. This is why you should work at Property COSA, because we're a big office. We're the number one office in the country, and these are our top performing agents, and this is what we've sold. So the next thing I'd like to say is the question then, let's just start with Rob again. Do you do all the presentations and the valuations in person every time? Do you ever just say, no, I don't mind, Rob, I'm busy, just sell it, and then you don't sit down with the guy?
No, we absolutely try not to do that. Even if the guy says it's just a tenant that's in the property, we try and make that contact with the seller. And yeah, I just think that personal contact, that relationship, he must have trust in us that we are going to work hard for him and get him the best price. So absolutely try in person.
I would say at least half of our mandates are unseen. The people, the agents have not spoken, haven't seen the seller. You know, it's not right. I agree with you. It's absolutely not right, because you don't form a relationship, and that's the biggest. That's why they will give it to another company, because they didn't bond with you.
So that 2 hours you spend, or what we spend doing a mandate presentation, is 2 hours incredibly well spent. Because if you walk out of there with a mandate, that's like a check in your pocket. Because if you've done your work right and the valuation is correct, you are going to sell that property. So that first 2 hours is absolutely critical.
And I know you added on to what I take to a listing and what you do the inspection, but I read the question quite carefully, Rob, because Anton says to me, what do I take with me to a listing, not what do I do at the listing?
Yeah, okay, yeah. But Gary, do you do all the presentations?
I do all the presentations. Absolutely got to inspect the property, because you need to establish what they've put into that property. Especially as Rob said, they might have been there 20, 30 years. I was mentioning to Anton yesterday, just had a bad example, which we can go into later, where sometimes you've just got to walk away because they're delusional, absolutely delusional. You need to know what money they've spent on a property. You know the purchase price. It's on your Lightstone. What have they spent? Have they spent 50,000 or 500,000? And how was the money spent? If I just paint the boundary walls, that's going to make it more marketable, but it's not going to add value because the wall was already there. If they've added on with plans authorised, hopefully, then they've added space. Space equals value. Facilities equals value. Does that make sense, guys?
Absolutely. Right, the next question we have is, in your experience, Rob, when would you decide to take an exclusive mandate or not take an exclusive mandate from a client? You know, what goes on in your head when the guy says, I want to give you an exclusive mandate?
I don't think I'd ever really opt to take an open mandate. And I think you've got to believe in your own mind as to, if you're a seller, which is the best way to get your best price. Is it by having one agent dedicated to that, who's got the time to work between 10 or 15 interested buyers? Or is it 2 or 3 agents who now split your buying power and end up by the whole psychology changes, not getting the price up from a buyer, but actually coming to the seller and saying, I've got an offer here for you, you need to accept this offer because of X, Y, Z, boom, 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 and your sole purpose is to get him to accept the offer, as opposed to a sole mandate being your sole purpose to get the highest price for him. And I think you've got to believe that in your heart to have the gumption to sort of say, I want a sole mandate, and these are the reasons.
Do you ever walk away from mandates?
No, I won't. I'll explain to them that that's the best way, is in that. But if you want to work with other agents, we will do that. And then, yeah, you back yourself.
And
but
what happens if the price is wrong? Would you walk away then?
It's going to be a long way wrong. I think most sellers are delirious in terms of their pricing. And that's fine. I mean, every guy must think his house is his castle type of thing. I would still say, look, we recommend 2 million or whatever, but if you want to go into the 2.4 or 2.5, we'll walk that road with you. But I will come back to you within 2 to 3 weeks, absolute maximum. And it's got to be a long mandate. But we do that, and we go back at all the stats and everything.
I think Rob just pinched my script there, because that's exactly what I was going to say. He's totally spot on. So sole mandates I normally go for? Absolutely, because if you're putting a lot of effort in, you want exclusivity from the seller to you and you to the seller, especially if you keep a managed, restricted portfolio. I'm not one to have 50 listings, I'd rather have just 10. That's first point. Second point is, as Rob said, want to repeat that, is that the price might be a little bit rich for the property, but you can still work with the seller after a period of review time. The American videos we used to watch in my old days in training was that on real estate was that the first 14 days are key. Those 14 days are ones where the alerts go out, and this is when people make decisions whether to click, view, see the property. So after 14 to 21 days, you know the price is wrong, and you can back that up with the seller because you've taken so many people through and you've surveyed those people. If you get a chancer, eliminate that chancer. If you get somebody who says, no, it's okay, eliminate him because he's probably not educated locally enough on the property. Take the mediums and say, right, your property's worth 1.6. Okay, and not one person. I've surveyed 6 to 8 people. You've seen me bring them through over the last 2 weeks. This is why we need to price counsel. Okay, Gary, I agree. And then you get to your price. With a sole mandate, you're still in control. You don't have a Pam Golding over, on your neck. So, as Rob said, make it a 90-day mandate. Gives you a chance to price counsel and conclude.
Okay, and then thank you for that. What do you do when to the owner when you say, what is the reason I should work with Property Codes? He won't ask it like that. He'll say, but basically that always comes down to, why would I give you exclusive mandate? What makes you so special? Why would you work with Property Codes?
Who's that for?
Both you.
Okay, for me.
You can go first.
In my circumstance, working 5 years with another agency before coming over to this one, I've noticed the comparable of IT. Obviously, Rob's history is IT, so we'll appreciate this. Our systems are first rate. They're integrated. They're dashboarded. I can produce a brochure in 30 seconds. Wow, I have an app, so I can work on the app. Our systems are just state-of-the-art. Personally, I've won awards, so that's great. I'm sure Rob does the same thing. Or the team has been very active in the market. But the systems and integration are just first class, and therefore we have a great representation throughout the country. So we've got a good footprint. So yeah, and our branding is recognised generally throughout the marketplace.
Yeah, I don't place too much emphasis on property codes. Because I think it's more the agent than the agency that they're going to buy into. Yes, they'll know the big names that have been around a long time, and they might phone them and say, please come and market or sell, give me a valuation. But to me, it's more about the agent, the person that's sitting in front of them. And that's why I say, to me, the 2-hour process is absolutely necessary. We absolutely do touch on, having said that, we do touch on the size of the company in total. We have a national footprint, the systems, and I throw out there that we have 50, 60, 70 agents type of thing, and it does vary. And we have the ability to match buyers' requirements to houses. So the guy's looking for a 3-bedroom double garage with a pool. We can put it in there. We can get a multitude of houses and or vice versa. Buyers come through and have a look at your house. So yeah, we absolutely do touch on that.
I think you might overstate, things in terms of our data, our database of buyers. They're not going to investigate you for that. So I don't think it's too unethical. You're just generalising. But you know what, rapport, as Rob said, I don't spend normally 2 hours. I might spend an hour or whatever. Building rapport is important because he's right. They might be looking at you rather than the agency. However, I think Rob will agree that some sellers go, well, why you versus Sotheby's? Now, Sotheby's is a huge family. It is a huge name, huge brand. And you say, well, actually, I keep a small portfolio, which I do, so that's not a lie. So that means I'm exclusive to you, and therefore you will get unlimited amount of my time. That goes down well, especially, and also the fact that we've got 50 agents on our local heritage regional group, which I have access to on a 24-hour basis.
Okay, thanks. I think what I'm hearing here is that both Gary and Rob have got an answer for the question, why should I use Property Codes? So they've got an answer saying, I'm an experienced agent, I'm an award-winning agent, I've got stock, I'm exclusive, I've got expertise on one side, and then whether or not they push Property Codes, it depends on the situation. But the very fact that they're in there means that you're not culling van bedars fishing tackle emporium and estate agency, because people won't buy into that. So there is a limit to how much you can fudge this. So if you're with the legitimacy of the brand is real, and they will have an answer for it, be it technology or number or brandability or any one of those. So I think the message to you is just get one or two things in your head. You don't have to know everything, even if it's one thing. What car do you drive? I drive a Mercedes. Why? Because it's the best car in the world, because the NCAP rating is 7. It's the best, whatever, it's the safest car in the world. That's all I have to say. I don't have to try and explain why I'm doing it. And the same for Publicosa. The reason that you should do it is because it's a magnificent brand. Our IT is brilliant. Rob will say, well, because we've got 80 agents. If you don't see and then you explain the value of that. So you don't have to get tied up. You don't have to know everything these guys know. You just need 1 or 2 points for every one of these questions. You understand? You don't need to try and be the consummate. I can see what you're doing now. I can see these eyes. They're trying to morph Rob and Gary into the super agent, and then I'm going to be this. That's not right, because Robin and Gary are completely and utterly different in the marketplace. They don't behave the same. They don't answer the same. And you can't just say, okay, I'm going to take half of what he said, half of what Rob said, and make the super agent. You'll fail utterly. Rather take the pointers, vocalize it in your vocalness, be authentic, Anton, and say, this is a lacquer place. I'm going to smart to sell this. If that's the way you talk. If that's not the way you talk, then you can't do it. Okay, and the next question. What are your closing points, Rob? What do you communicate to the seller at the end of the presentation? So you've done the presentation, and now you go, so, Mr. Seller, what is that closing thing that you use?
Sure. The whole presentation kind of is the closing thing in a way. So what does work nicely with Robin and I being a partnership is that there are no quiet periods of nobody talking. So she'll be we've walked around the house, we've done the listing, she'll be filling in the listing card, I'll still be talking to husband and wife, the sellers, etc., asking a few questions. And we literally, and again, we do work in a much smaller area. We have a kind of a little farm area that we work in. So there is kind of a for sale sign or a sold sign on every second corner type of thing. So we've almost sold ourselves before we get into the thing. But we absolutely will say to them, it takes us 2 days to get our professional photographer to come through. We then have a certain way of working it, but within a week we'll have your property on the market there. Can we do, are you happy? Well, in fact, we just sort of say, are you happy to do a mandate with us?
Okay. I do the same. I go through a process. I recap what I've said. I summarise. I say, are there any questions you have? Because what I find interesting is, I'm sure Rob's the same, is that has anybody ever been the deeds office and understands that, do it someday? They'll ask, what's the process when it gets to conveyancing stage or bond stage? And when you know the answers to those questions, it's impressive. So you're a turnkey solution. Yes, I'm not the conveyancer, I'm not the bond originator, but I know what they do. Okay, I know, because at the end of the day, a sale needs to get registered and fulfilled, money in the bank. That's what you want, isn't it? Your money in the bank. What am I going to net, etc. So any questions on that process? And by the way, I will be with you for the whole journey. I'm not the type of agent that's going to sell, get it to the attorneys, cheers, goodbye, Vienna. No, I'm here to oversee the whole process up until it goes into the deeds office and gets duly registered. And that normally closes it.
I think what I'm hearing here is that they both asked for the business.
Oh, yeah.
So, you don't sit in the presentation and say, well, it's very nice to meet you, let me know what you think. That's the same as saying, I won't ever see you again, have a nice day. What I'm hearing is they say, thank you for your time. Will you give me a sole mandate, and can I start marketing it tomorrow? I'm bringing my photographer through. You want, because what do you want? You want the sole mandate, or you want them to say, no, Anton, I don't want to work with you. Why do you want them to say no? Because then you can get on with your life. You don't have to go through and, why is he's like ghosting me on WhatsApp now, and I can't speak to the seller, and he's talking to my wife. Who's got time for that? Okay.
I've got a cheeky strategy. This is really cheeky. It works 8 times out of 10. Sometimes it doesn't. But that's fine. And Joe and I have a good relationship on this. Let's say today, Thursday, I've gone to a presentation that I feel I'm going to get optimistic. I booked the photographer already for Tuesday as a reservation. Why? Because our photographer, by the way, I never use a cell phone, ever.
No.
Ever. I need a photographer. They're free lunch. You have to book them in advance. I want her Tuesday to list Wednesday. I don't want it on the market the following week. I want it now. So I do that. Sometimes it bites me in the bum, but it's being proactive. Be proactive in real estate. Don't be reactive.
Right, good. Thank you. The last question really is, what is your success rate when you sit down and say, after everything, how many times you get the sole mandate compared to getting an open mandate versus, I don't want you to darken my doorway, Rob, get out of here, get chased. You know, there's really only three options. No, yes for everybody, or yes to you, sole mandate.
I would say ours is probably 9 out of 10.
Getting chased?
No.
Oh, sorry, I'm
I always wear my taxes.
So
Yeah, no, nine times out of 10 to get a sole mandate.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that probably.
And you get chased ever?
No, but I have sometimes put a seller in its place and just sort of say, well, I don't think we're actually going to work together.
Okay. So you fired them on the spot and said, I can't.
Yeah, try not to do too often.
Yeah.
I try and contain my temper.
Yes. Okay. Gary, what's your conclusion?
Can I break that down? First of all, on the sole mandate, if it's a cold inquiry, 35%, so 1 in 3, call it. If it's a warm inquiry, you know what the main difference is between cold and warm, hey? Warm means you've been introduced already, telephonically, whatever. It's sort of through your centre of influence, as they call it in sales. So if it's a warm inquiry, a warm lead, about 60%, so nearly double that. On an open mandate, 80%, because they've got nothing to lose, you've got nothing to lose. And I would add that the strategy, my personal strategy at the moment, with this market, you may as well go for open mandates. Because you've got nothing to lose. Remember, we've got one now with Angie. That's good luck today, Angie. It's an open mandate, very sellable property. The competing agent's on page 7 or 8 already, so that's lost to the new traffic online. Let's face it, most of our traffic's online. So if we list that tomorrow, it's going to go straight to page 1. Those new buyers are going to see it and say, wow, 5 beds, cottage, this at 2.3. When can I see it? There we go.
Good, thank you. That's wonderful. Are there any questions from the floor? Yes, Sandy.
How do you establish the value of a property, especially if it's not your average 3-bed, 2-bath, double garage? What are the things that you look at if it's different and it doesn't fit into the scheme?
Give me context on that. Give me an example.
You have this house, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, the normal, but it has 3 cottages on it.
Yeah.
And now you go and look on the market, there's nothing that's the same. So how do you get that price?
I'd like to answer that question. Having just built a cottage and an extension for my daughter, she's got expensive tastes. Right, so building cost new from foundation up is 10,000 a square metre. Please, you're welcome to write, this is actual cost. Second hand, so you've got 3 cottages, 5,000 square metre, just 50% of it, for the purposes of valuation. So if each cottage is 50 squares, you can do the maths. 150 squares times 5,000. Are you in agreement with that, Rob? As a plus?
You can do it that way. The other way I also would look at it is kind of say to them, well, what's the rental income that you're getting out of your 3 cottages?
Between 5 and 6 per cottage.
So 5 and 6 times 3 is 18,000 plus the house. So that in total is pushing up towards the 3 million mark, probably, just on that alone. But what we also always do is we always ask the seller 2 or 3 times, what do you want for your property?
Yes.
Yeah.
Throughout that presentation, have you got any idea? No, we've been in here for 30, 40 years, got no idea. That's fine. Give them a rough idea of what the market's like. Again, ask them again. And you'd be surprised how many times they'll sort of say, yeah, I reckon probably at a 1.5, 1.6 or something. And we'll say, I'd be disappointed if we only got you a 1.5. And then,
There's a correlation there because I also ask, what is your expectations? If they don't have it, you don't get it. But if you do have it, sometimes they snip in there and say, oh, well, actually, Rawson's were here last year, and they valued it. Well, I'm writing that down because that's my benchmark now. Am I going to meet this? So we, to the seller, is the same as the bank saying to the bank's valuation department, here's the offer for 2 million. Can you see that value? And the value is going to say yes or no. Remember, he doesn't have to overvalue that. He has to see the value in it.
Okay, so I think the answer to that question is really, it depends. Because there's one caveat to everything. It doesn't matter how many cottages I build on my property. I'm not getting 10 million rand.
No.
Because I live in Newlands. And next door to me is, it's on fire. Whatever the scenario is. So remember, South Africa's national sport is over-capitalizing on property.
Yeah.
So everybody that's got a property, as soon as they say to me they've added something, I go, well, it's not going to change the price. You know, you'll break their hearts up front. So having 3 cottages, I would be very cautious of just saying, it depends very much on the area. If you had a house in Sandton and you built 9 cottages, you could go to 40 million rand. Why not? You can't do that in the wrong area. So be careful of that. So you can use the metrics that they talk about, but the actual answer to this is talk to the guys that can use all of these applications and give you a sensible answer. Because after this meeting, you're going to come back to Gary and Rob and say, by the way, this house is in this area, and the average sale price in the area is 1.5. Now to do the sum out at 3 million rand, Rob's going to go, no, it'll never sell like that. It doesn't work like that anymore. Okay.
I think the company CMA, they do professional valuations. They're based in Cape Town. They have certain matrix. So they have matrix on condition, which is poor, average, and good. Actually 4. Poor, average, good, excellent. So use those 4 matrix in your own mind. You know, has it got gold taps or crappy taps? You know what I'm saying? Oh, sorry, not allowed to say crappy. The next thing is...
Please don't say crappy again.
Don't say that again.
Don't say crappy again. Oh, okay. The next thing is, as Anton alluded to, is accommodation. What accommodation is on this stand? If there's a lot, 3 cottages, which at the moment is in demand, that's rental income, then you're going to be at the very top of the capitalisation for the area. You can't go over, slightly over, because next door won't have 3 cottages. Can't put 4 students or 6 students in there, but you can. I mean, I've just sold in West End. That's going to be student accommodation.
And I think the very vital question I would ask is, are these 3 cottages on plan?
Yeah.
Because you can't have 3 buildings on a site.
Yeah.
So that immediately says, if it's not on plan, you've just halved the value of your house.
Yeah.
You haven't increased it by 1%. You've actually made it unsaleable.
It's also the practicality of those cottages. Do they have enough parking for those cottages? Do they have their own access? Is it all tandem parking? Yeah, absolutely. A lot of factors.
Nice. Another question.
Oh, sorry, just while I think on, sorry, you know, I'm old, my brain is delayed. Is
Finally something we can agree on.
Yeah, okay. Let's all agree on that.
So fast forward 30 minutes.
No, I'm not.
I hope there's beers in the fridge. Oh yes, as Sean from NGL has said in prior training, if they're not going to have plans, no up front.
Yeah.
No up front, especially if there's additional buildings. And then at least you can address that and say to Sean nicely, please, here's the earth. Please, if your runner can get a copy of plans, even if it's old, because remember, if it's old, you can, the architect can just build on and draw it up, cost 20 grand. If there's no plans, it's going to cost you 80 grand. Big difference in price.
Yeah.
So we've actually changed our exclusive mandate. So he signs on the mandate. He also says, I hereby give Rob and Robin permission to request building plans for the above property at COJ. So we just say to them, look, you know, if it's questionable or whatever, well, you just sign there at the same time. We've now got permission to go and get it from COJ, and all your problems are sorted out, resolved. We will look after this whole transaction from beginning to end for you, basically.
Adding value. Yeah. Sorry, Angie, you asking?
I have 2 sides to the question. The first is, what was your most positive, quickest sale situation, seller, and what was your most negative, frustrating situation?
Who's that for?
Both of you.
Well, from a negative point of view, I've had a seller before where he actually was financially distressed. This was when I was with a previous company. and he would just never take my calls. So eventually I got hold of him and I said to him, look, I'm trying to help you, but I can't get through and I can't get your calls, etc. He says he's very busy because he's got a business to run. So I said, okay, that's fine, I understand that, but I have got a business to run and you are my business. I cannot help you if you don't come back to me. So either you come back to me or you get another agent. Because it really wasn't worth my time. And it's not to be arrogant or anything like that. My goal is to try and help him. And he changed like an overnight. Boom. Answered every one of my calls, all that type of thing. The best one is kind of where somebody's not necessarily listening at the moment, and they say, well, just keep somebody in mind, keep my house in mind, and you go along there and you sell it before you've even listed it. So there's two extremes.
Well, one thing I'm seeing here is an experienced agent has got an answer for the problem the client's got. So he's got a problem with pricing, they can tell him what the price is, demonstrate it by sales data, show them what's on the market. If there's a COJ issue, they don't say, oh, we'll get the plans and just make sure they're passed and we'll phone you back and make sure. No, I'll get the plans, I'll check the listing and make sure it's zoned properly, I'll make sure for you. Because most people, if you say to Anton, is your house zoned correctly? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm in the business and I don't know how to check that. You know, what do you really do? Go to COJ and get a zoning certificate, I assume. But I don't really know. But if Gary says to me, listen, I'm going to go to COJ and get you a zoning certificate so we know if the 3 flats are on plan. Man, that's a value add. That's something that the other company may not offer. Okay, so I think the takeaway from these agents is simply that they have, and I'm not saying glib answers, I'm not saying being a motor mouth, smarty, it's not about that. It's having a real practical solution to every problem. And the problems aren't hard to work out. You know the sales process, you know exactly what the problems are going to be. And if you don't know them, just sit and brainstorm it. It's like, hey, price is the first thing.
Yeah, and that links back to the presentation of mandate now, because we can't remember everything off bat. I'm sure Rob does the same. Back to our walk in the house for a cup of tea and a presentation is your compliance certificates, your plans. I can facilitate all of that, have the right people to do the right thing. That's a value added. How much will that cost me? No, well, you'll pay the electrician, yes, but I'll introduce him, and I know he's qualified, and I know he's reliable, and he's fairly priced. Oh, great, because I don't know any electricians.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, any other questions? So I think it's absolutely right. And what is the average increase in house prices in 1 year, do you think? Anybody got a number?
It used to be 7, wasn't it?
Percent?
Yeah, it used to be.
Okay, so the average inflated price, the growth in house price is probably 3%.
Correct.
Up to 3.5%, and depending on the area. So we average it at 3. What's inflation at?
6, 7.
Depending who you're talking to. Let's say 7.
Yeah.
So what is the actual growth in house price?
-4.
-4. So the actual answer that Gary can give that guy, if he absolutely wants to hear it, is that your house is lost 100,000 rand. And you don't get your legal fees back. That's not adding value. And well done for painting, but all houses are painted. It's not a big deal. Like, I painted the house. Woo! Okay, there's just the last question. When do you not accept a mandate? Is that exactly the situation?
Yeah,
you chased him there. Or did he go? No, he went away by himself.
They went about by themselves, and the wife's a teacher at a good school, and I sent messages to follow up, as you do. Nobody responded to me. I got hold of him on the phone. He said, Gary, I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back. They actually had no integrity themselves. They decided to ghost me and ignore me, and these are people in my community, so I thought, stuff you, I'll leave it, but I know they're going somewhere else. I just didn't know if that other agent would have the gall to go at that price, and lo and behold, they did.
That's not going to be good for them.
Wow. I'm going to follow it for the next month and see what happens. Guys, somebody might be saying to me, sorry, I think this is a good case study. Somebody might be saying to me, but Gary, that's in your community. Your for sale board going to go. Because the commission was agreed. It wasn't great commission, but you know what? I can walk to the house from here to you. So hello. But at the end of the day, it's called reputational risk. So I put my board outside at 2280, not believing in that product at that price. What am I doing to myself?
We've actually got 3 properties at the moment where we've done the same thing, given a valuation, so that's what we think it's worth. They've gone with some other agent at a highly inflated thing. And my question to them always is, you've gone with somebody that doesn't know the area, and we're in a bit of a secure estate. So we know, we're both on the committee, we know exactly what's happening with what's going on in the area, etc., etc. We know the pros and cons. It's a lifestyle that we're actually selling more so than the house. And I'll say to them, well, why did you end up by going with that agent? No, because it was more and more. I said, but that's not going to change the value of your house. Just because somebody says it's worth 500,000 more is not going to change the value of your house. And we've literally got 3 houses at the moment. That one we've taken back on again now, because the other agent, literally in his words, didn't do anything, but he had no inquiries at that price. And 2 others where we're talking to the people, and they want to come back to us because we had a realistic price. So absolutely, your valuation's got to be realistic, but I'm happy to walk that road a little bit to sort of prove to them that they are asking too much with a reason.
Okay, last question.
Sole versus exclusive. Rob, I think you've got about 20 odd exclusive mandates on your portfolio. What is the difference? What do we? I know sole is exclusive.
Sole versus exclusive.
Yeah.
So exclusive, you've got the exclusive right to sell that property. Sole mandate says you've got the right to sell it, but so too has the owner.
But you choose exclusive.
Oh, always. Oh, yeah. I don't even bring up sole mandate. No,
Really?
yeah, because the reason why seller is involving an estate agent is because he doesn't want to be bothered with it. And we do add value to that. And you have to believe in your mind, in your own heart, that you are adding value. If he says to me, well, my brother is quite keen on the property, I'll say, that's fine. Do an exclusive mandate. I'll exclude your brother for 2 weeks. Not until the end of the mandate. Because then if we only get 2 instead of 2.4, then his brother says, oh, well, at 2 million, I'll take him.
That's
so we exclude him out
of the big box.
So after two weeks or whatever, I'll say, that's fine. I'll start the process, but he can't be there forever and a day.
That's valuable.
In all honesty, that means the sole mandate's a little bit redundant. It should be exclusive. What seller wants to? If they want to sell their own property, they will do it online. It won't involve you at all. So it should be exclusive all the way through.
We only have exclusive mandates. You have to cross out the word to make it a sole mandate. So just don't do that.
Yeah.
So in there's some smarty pants that made this saying, oh, these guys are lucky. Very lucky with their mandates, eh? And then the answer to that, of course, is the trite saying that luck is where preparation meets opportunity. Okay, and I think that is exactly what I've heard here. The opportunity to make the presentation is offered to you when you make your listing calls and you do your canvassing. Now the opportunity is available. If you go to that thing unprepared, you cannot be lucky. You have to go there as prepared as Robin. And what strikes me is that Rob and Gary are not new in the business. They don't need to take a clipboard with pieces of paper to remind them. They both got mouths that they can answer any question. Yet they still depend on it. Why? To give confidence to the seller, to give the person time. Because after sitting for an hour with these two, you won't remember a word they've said. You can't remember it. There's too much. Now you've got a lovely presentation. You've got the CMA data. You've got their listings. You can get the confidence. Okay, so it's simply about preparation.
Can I just go back to rapport? Because Rob has alluded to it as well. If they like you, they might appoint you regardless who you work for. You could work for ABC company. It doesn't really matter. They're buying into you. So rapport, and he takes 2 hours for people to like him. I get that. People like me a little bit.
Stay away, Gary.
Yeah, I'm more likeable straight away. No, I'm just
and then he's going to get out of there because he becomes unlikable.
On a serious note, we used to do this. I used to train for F&B. You all know, you've heard about that. So I've done sales training. Is the fact that look at the mantelpiece, look at this, see what they're into, and talk about them. People love it when you talk about them.
Right.
Whether it's kids, dogs, cats, hobbies, or whatever. Get that. This might only take 20 minutes, Rob, not 2 hours. Have a nice cup of tea with them, do this, do that, whatever. At the end of the day, they're now going to buy into you. That makes the second part of the presentation.
Yeah.
As long as the value aligned to their expectations, now they like you, I want to work with you. Sign on the dotted
Well, you can walk into a house, and within 10-15 minutes, you've got a price in your mind.
Yeah.
Because you know the condition, the size, what it offers, all that type of thing. If you give them the price after 10 minutes and walk out, you're never going to get that mandate. In my opinion, there's not a chance.
Why?
Okay. It's too quick. You're not being professional. Any doctor that you walk past and he says, "Oh, I can see you're sick." Well, you haven't even looked at me. Then I take my temperature.
And that's as much time as you're going to give to me. And this is my most valuable asset in my life. And I'm in desperate financial straits or whatever it might be. You have no idea.
Cool. It's allowed.
How do you get listings? I know a lot of them are referrals, but do you do the actual cold calling? Do you do the canvassing?
I've got to be frank, I haven't done cold calling for a while. I tend to look at the past 8 years and clients sometimes phone me. There's very loyal clients out there, there's very unloyal ones as well. But I sometimes do form a complex. I have 4 complexes that I go to each year. They know them, Crestview, St. Man's and blah, blah, blah. And so that's really repeat business because now they want to upgrade, downgrade, whatever. But yeah, otherwise cold calling. Remember, Poppy allows you to contact persons once, and if you contact them the first time and they like you, then you're okay. If they say get lost, you can't phone them again. We get that. But give it one shot. You're entitled to phone them one shot. Yeah, one chance.
So on your cold calling, you touched on it earlier, your success rate is a lot lower, okay? Because often they're not even actually prepared to go to market yet. But I look at it from the point of view that if they're going to take the time to have you come in and spend 2 hours of their time, they must have it in the back of their minds that they're probably going to go to market within the next 2 years. But then you get their email addresses, you know that their child is going to university. When that finishes, at the end of the year, they're going to then think of going to market. All those things you just keep. We make detailed notes of every person we see, and then we'll contact them, send them a happy birthday or a Christmas, or phone them at the end of the year. How's your daughter? Hope she passed. Because now you can sell your house. You know, that type of thing. So
use the databases that are provided on the system. So, and I think there's just one thing I think I'm scared of. What Robbie's not instructing you to spend 2.5 hours with a client.
No.
That is not at all what he does. If he can get out there in 15 minutes, I assure you he will. If the guy says, "Listen, Rob, I like you, I know you, please give me the mandate, I'll sign it." He's not going to say, no, you're sitting down, because you still got 2 hours, 45 minutes with me. So please be very careful.
You've also got to read the person. Because some people are just facts, figures, down the line. If you start talking and they go, and they're looking around, then you know you've lost them. No, that's not their vibe type thing. Others will themselves talk for 3 hours type of thing. So you've got to read the situation.
There's 2 pigeonholes. You can cross paths, like going from Labour to Conservative or ANC to DA, whatever, crossing paths. For some people it's transactional, so you'll be their transactional agent, okay? Some high performers do that, Chaz Everett, etc., and they do well, but they don't get comebacks, they don't get repeat business. The transactional, cold, and sometimes undersell. And then you've got relationship agents, okay, which I like to be. I think Rob and Robin do as well, because then you get repeat business, you know. Then you get testimonials often.
Right, Gary, Rob, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Have you learned anything?
Absolutely.
Hope so.
Thanks for coming.
Because I have.
And thanks to everybody who watched. This is our first Cafe Connect. I think we'll do some more of them. We'll just pick different topics. And we might even get better looking hosts, but a host and
an agent.
But thanks very much. Have a nice day.